Oh, hello Twitch stream. Glad to be able to do this Twitch stream. At least I'm not a quadriplegic or anything, so I have the ability to set up the camera all on my own. Welcome to Currency Podcast episode 96. This is a podcast and Twitch stream. I was just telling the Twitch stream, which started a couple seconds before the podcast episode, that I'm glad I'm not a quadriplegic, because now I get to set up the cameras all on my own. I have the freedom to do that because of my abilities. I'm DJ abilities. That's what they call me in the clubs. And you might laugh, but I've actually seen a poster in the past for a guy whose name was DJ Abilities, and that's the DJ that it was Abilities. DJ Abilities. The DJ that it was DJ Abilities, and needless to say, I bet that guy had some abilities. DJ Responsibilities would have been a good one too. DJ Not Negligent. DJ Upstanding Citizen is one of my favorite DJs. He really can spin the shit out of those tables. DJ Not Try So Hard. DJ Unassuming. DJ Undercard. Understated. Oh, I love DJ Understated. You can barely, he's so subtle. When the drop comes, it's just like, it doesn't even come. He like builds up to a drop and then it's silence. Yeah, well, I'm DJ Understated. It's kind of a new take on, it's not necessarily going to be this big thing, you know? That's what DJ Understated does. It's like, hey, I know that you might be expecting the drop. It's not like it always has to go that way. Sometimes I'm just spinning the tables. It's not like I'm this big celebrity. I know, like, DJ Understated, he's no DJ Abilities, you know. So I'm playing Fall Guys again here on the #1 podcast and Twitch stream in the world that I am proud to be able to bring forward to you. And because of my abilities, I'm sort of like DJ Abilities myself. I think that we all are a little bit like that. Yeah, I saw a poster for DJ Abilities, actually. It was in Club Wed in the Wisconsin Dells. The game is freezing as I try to reassign the headset. Wow, this is really screwed up right now. I can still save it though. Ah! Come on. Alright, close one. That was stressful. You might have known that was stressful based on how I screamed or yelled loudly, but sorry that I haven't been on the podcast in a while. I was actually in Virginia last weekend visiting some friends, and I mean, I ran out of time to do the episode anytime before that also, so no excuses, but excuses somewhere is the reason why. It's been like 10 days since I did an episode, but you know, it happens, and this is my busy life, like 8 kids and 9 kids and counting kind of thing. It's like one of those situations. Like, I don't have any kids, but it's just that I'm so busy. It's like I'm on 18 kids and counting, even though I live alone, even though it's just me. So it's a little different, you know, than if I was somebody who had like 19 kids, but just generally speaking, I'm not really that close, I guess, to someone who has that many kids. But let me talk about a topic of sorts today. I was thinking something religious. I wanted to go in a religious direction, I guess. But I sort of wonder how much of... There's no way I passed this one without, like, really focusing. Oh, that's bullshit. I'm thinking about how things are, like, a competition, but sometimes they are not. Like, is it a competition, or is it not really so much a competition? What life is, and, like, is life a competition? It's kind of like, see what we got here. Oops, got flung off the side. I feel like Christians that I know are pretty competitive, and that maybe they would say that they weren't. They would act like it wasn't that way. Because... Oh, I didn't make it. Yeah, sorry, I was focusing on that one. I feel like Jesus is an example of somebody who's competitive, but that's kind of the whole thing with the Christian church, is that they would say that it isn't a competition because it's all about, like Jesus has saved everybody and he makes everybody the same, and so that's, like, automatically not a competitive environment. The one that's, like, supposed to take place in the Christian church, it's supposed to be not competitive because Jesus makes everybody the same, but, like, it is a competition ultimately between Christians in the world, because people in the world that don't follow Jesus, they're automatically the reality of Christianity. It's just that, like, if you're in Christianity, if you, like, are really a devout Christian, you're going to say that that reality is something close to, like, absolutely true. And believe that something is absolutely true, then you're trying to make it not competitive. Like, as far as somebody who truly believes in Christianity would be concerned, they would say that, and I know this because I used to really devoutly believe in Christianity, they would say that things are not competitive, but that they're absolute, or in other words, like, they're not relative. There aren't relative truths because there's one absolute truth. It's like the same thing in believing in a monotheistic religion where there's one God. And I'm just sharing my opinions about religion, or about God. And I think that like, as long as you are allowed to view Christianity objectively, then you live in a world of relative truths rather than absolute ones. Or, in other words, you're able to see the competition that's happening. But, like, Christians would probably profess that there isn't a competition. But I would like to mention that it's inherently a competition no matter what, especially when you have, like, a group of people. Doesn't have to be Christians, it can be Judaism. Like, Jews believe in Judaism absolutely the same way Christians believe in Christianity absolutely. I'm saying that as long as there's a group of people that do say there's absolute truth, they're, like, automatically introducing a competition for the rest of the world, because the rest of the world doesn't all believe in any one religion. And so there are automatically comparable realities or comparable religions that people believe in. Like, as long as there's more than one, which there are, like we see with Christianity or Judaism or Islam. It's just that if you're outside of it, like, if you're outside of Christianity, outside of the borders of it, or outside of the rules of it, then you get to see it as an object, and you get to see all religions as an object, really, as long as you're outside of them. If you're inside of them, you're viewing it in a subjective space, and subjective space those are what lead to absolutism. Because you're absolutely confined or absolutely contained by the borders of what you're stuck within. But it's like things are both a competition and they are not a competition at the same time. Like, it's like saying that things are capitalist and socialist at the same time, or saying that things are conservative and they're liberal at the same time. Where I'd say that liberals are ultimately collectivist and conservatives are individuals. But like individual and collectivist both happen at the same time. It just kind of depends on your perspective. It's the same as time and space. They happen at the same time. Just depends on your perspective, but I'd say that time is more like subjective and space is more objective. But as long as you're allowed to say that space is the horizontal one and time is the vertical one. But time is more subjective, and we are more subjected to it in the respect that we don't understand what it is like actually, and we're not able to view time as an object. That comes with the territory of not understanding something to its fullest extent. Like, if you don't understand something, that means you're trapped within it, and you're forced into a perspective where you view it more absolutely as opposed to relative, or that you're able to view different objects as comparable to each other. Time and space are a continuum that overlap over each other continually, just in any respect that you'd be able to consider. It's the same with objective and subjective. They both happen everywhere and happen at the same time. It's like there's a duality that exists everywhere. Okay, I've never had this. This is ridiculous right here. Oh my fuck! Idiot! Wow, I really almost lost this one. But like time and space are the same thing as object and subject. They both kind of like overlap each other. But I think that God reveals himself, and that is what God is. I think God is sort of an idea for things that are all, like whatever it is that's always above us. And you can make it a person. I tend to not make God a person at this point. Ingenuity or something. Like whatever it is that's above us, we're constantly trying to grasp it, and then we make it more tangible to ourselves more and more over time, the more things that we invent. It's like whenever something new occurs, it's kind of like a gift from above, and I think that that's a way that God reveals himself to us, even if it's a baby that somebody has. That's a way of God revealing himself to us. Like, that's a new articulation of what God is. Like any new thing that happens, I think that like invention, or like, I mean, just a way that we became intelligent that we didn't see before, like that's a way that God reveals himself to us. Like God manifests himself in all the new things that happen because God is like an idea for things that are above us or things that we don't understand. Or things that are beyond us as far as time is concerned. I guess I think that, like, whenever I'm trying to explain God to myself, or sometimes I think about, like, I'm trying to describe what my own relationship to God often, and I feel like the God that I'm trying to describe to myself is something like a God of the future, or like my future self. And trying to pass this Fall Guys competition. I feel like God is kind of what is out in front of me as far as time is concerned. I think that that's sort of the way that it works for me and maybe for everybody. Like, when we're trying to describe God, it's possible that we're describing our future self, or like our self that is laying everything out for ourselves and for our present self. Like, whatever person it is that is orchestrating all of the circumstances in your life that you end up with in the present, I think that that's something like God, because God is what's beyond us. God is the entity or set of ideas that's dealing with things out in front of us that we don't understand, like the person that's converting our future into the present. Like, our future selves, I think, are something like God. Like, I look around at my life and it's kind of, I guess it's a little startling that I've ended up with the life that I've ended up with, like the specific circumstances that have resulted from my life, like the car I drive and the city I live in. And it, like, I look at it and it's interesting to me that it's all been set up in a certain way, but it's like I've been orchestrating it that way, even though at the time it just felt like I'm maybe walking through life screwing it up, or like it's difficult to choose the right car, or like choose the right dog to have or whatever. But like, as it turns out, I made a lot of educated decisions and like choices that I made, and like I've ended up setting a good life up for myself. And so, like, depending on how good a life that you have currently, I guess it might depend on something like your relationship with God. So like, because there's a lot of people that have a shitty life, or like they might be homeless, and so what does that say about what your future self is doing for your present self if you end up homeless? Or like, and in the respect that I'm saying it, like, it would suggest that you should have a good relationship with God, but like, I'm saying God is something like your future self, and if you don't agree with me on that point, maybe I'll just describe it as like your future self, rather than as God. Like, it's important to have a good relationship with your future self, or in other words, like yourself enough to want to set up things for yourself. But it's like, I usually am walking around under the impression that I don't like myself, but it's like that is revealed to be a lie at the point that I realize that like I've set myself up with a good salary, and like I got a degree. Like, I've been doing all this shit for such a long period of time over the course of my life to make it so that I come out okay on the other end. But like, obviously there's things that I wish were better about it, but I don't think that it's beneficial to say that God is one guy. I think that that's limiting to God, really, when you think about it. Like, you shouldn't say that God is one person, because he can reveal himself as I'd say he reveals himself as so many different things, because like there's so many different religions and so many different civilizations that have different gods during the course of all of humanity, during the course of history. Like, there's so many different interpretations of God that is a complicated one here that I really have to focus on. Oops. Fucking good. Well, I'm not gonna make it, I don't think. Might as well just give up now. Oh, I might make it. I might make it. Might make it. Yes. I did make it. I usually miss that one. But, like, I think that it's just everything that we specify about what we used to not know is kind of, that's a picture of God. Like, anything that's new, but, like, things that are supernatural that exist in the beyond. Anything that's, like, you weren't expecting. Like, things that give us hope are, and things that are in the beyond. Like, I would say that everything that's supernatural is sort of like it's like a picture of God, and so we exist in this, we exist in a state of things in the world where, like, we don't, there's UFOs and we don't know what they are. Like, we're too stupid to figure out what UFOs are, as it turns out, like, as an entire species. Like, there might be a couple people, but it's like, is there anybody out there that actually knows the truth of it? I guess that there probably are, but the way that society exists now is there's too many secrets that people need to keep in order to get ahead. Like, there's a lot of division in that respect, I guess. There's not enough unity that we're, like, willing to reveal our secrets about things ever. Like, I think that there's got to be some people that know a higher truth about UFOs that aren't really, that must not be saying it. It's kind of depressing, though. It's like we never... Like, we have pictures of UFOs, but no truth, no ultimate truth is ever revealed about them. I think that the supernatural is interesting, like, it can give you hope, or like the paranormal can give you hope, because it's describing things that exist. Like, I used to view God, I thought that he was just a guy. Like, he was one person and somebody that you have a relationship to, and so, like, I prayed to God a lot. And I don't really pray to God anymore, because I think that God is going to reveal himself no matter what. I think that we're always headed in that direction, or that, like, people are kind of a hybrid between God and humanity. And God, I can never fucking get one of these things. I'm just gonna lose. I'm just gonna give up. I give up. I can't do this. I can't do this one while talking. I can never win this one anyway. I think that Jesus is meant to symbolize how there's a bridge between humans and God. Like, Jesus is the perfect example of the person who's 50-50. So it's like he's halfway between the spectrum of fallibility and infallibility between God and man. He's like a perfect example of a 50-50. And I think that when people become famous, that is also an image of Jesus. Like, they're like, if somebody becomes really famous, they're kind of representing Jesus in a way, because they're halfway between God and man. Like, when you're a celebrated figure, you're a celebrity, or you become really popular, that means we find it necessary to celebrate you. It's because you're representing the supernatural, or you're representing the beyond as a celebrity, and your ability to capture, like, being above everybody else. Like, I think that celebrities, anybody that becomes famous, like on YouTube or a podcaster or whatever kind of celebrity you like to follow, they're kind of like a Jesus figure that is a bridge between God and man. And it's like they're in some way capturing what Jesus represents, because that's what Jesus is, like, most significantly meant to represent. Is he shows you that there's a way to be like God while you're just a person. And people, when they become famous in their respective fields, they're capturing the beyond or the supernatural in such a way that they are sort of like Jesus for the rest of us. And that's like, we look at celebrities that way. We ask them to take the fall for us to, like, be the entertainer. Or, like, they're the ones that are out ahead of us, that are then, like, people that we would blame for things because they're the most influential people. The people who have the most influence are the people that are liable for the most blame from the rest of us. And so, in some senses, somebody rising up to be famous, they're just the person who's rising up to take the blame for the rest of us, where the rest of us are unable to, because we're not as important. But, like, they're given a platform, and but Jesus just happens to be the greatest example of that, and we do think of him as being both God and man. You really only get to be both of them completely if you're, like, exactly halfway between the two. Like, he is a God-man hybrid. But, like, God manifests himself through these Jesus figures, through people that become famous enough they're given a platform that is risen above all of the rest of us. Like, but it's often the case that somebody is famous because they're inventing something new. Even if it's Logan Paul, like, the way that he runs his podcast is, like, a completely different picture than other people's podcasts, or just like the Nelk Boys. They're doing something really innovative. Like, Steve Will Do It becomes really famous because he's doing something that nobody has ever done before. He's capturing ingenuity like we've never seen, or it's like he's invented something that nobody's invented before. And so Steve Will Do It is able to embody the transcendent, really, and that just goes hand in hand with him becoming really famous. Or you're automatically given a platform and given more influence the more that you're embodying, like, that which is new, or that which is above the rest of us. Like, it's almost like you have to embody something that's being invented, or embody a way that God is manifesting himself in order to be famous or get the clout that comes with being famous, like the way that current famous people are. But what I'm saying about a competition is that just that it annoys me that Christians would say it wasn't a competition, but it's really like they would prefer to describe it as a competition. I feel like, or like, I'd say that in my experience, Christians are more competitive than non-Christians. But they don't even know it, or they would act like they weren't the competitive ones. I think that Christians are more competitive because they need their reality to be right so much, or like, the more that you really ardently believe something, or really devoutly believe something, is the more that it's going to be a competition for the people outside of that belief system. Because it becomes more aggressive like that. Like, Christians are really aggressive the more, or any religion, like, obviously, the more that they are, like, really believing something. So it's interesting, the relationship between belief and aggression, which is that, like, Christians, for example, they really believe in God and, like, the power of his love, and that his love is, like, all-consuming, and that if everybody saw it the way that they did, or, like, everybody believed in God the right way, then they would get to receive some of the perfect love that God offers them. But, like, if you're denying it, then you don't get that love. But it's like, if you're within Christianity, what you believe, you're saying the within of it offers you this picture of really perfect love. But it's just kind of like, the stronger the belief system, or the more that you're in a position where you're saying, like, this love is perfect, it's kind of like the more aggressive that love is to people outside of it who don't believe in that. And there's going to be tons of people who don't believe in Christianity, so, like, that love that Christians say is, like, really pacifying to everybody, like, really peaceful, it gives you a lot of peace as long as you're within the religion. It's kind of like, the more peaceful that you're saying it is within it, is the more warlike it is to people on the outside. Because, like, as you see with extremes in the religion, like with the Westboro Baptist Church, like, the more aggressive your beliefs is, the more aggressively you believe is, the more, like, aggressive it's going to be to people on the outside. So it's like, it's not better. Like, this is some crazy love that's happening that Christians are talking about, and they really go into saying it's, like, the craziest love that you can obtain. But, like, that becomes a really aggressive thing if you're denying that love. If you're outside of the religion, you're in a position to say, like, it's not true. Then it's like a competition, or it's like a fight, really. It is a fight when you, like, when you're saying that this is the thing that everybody should believe, but to the extent that they aren't, they're just denying perfect love, or it's like saying that you're a love hater if you don't. It's like saying you're a love hater if you then don't accept this perfect love that like exists only in the Christian religion. But like it becomes a competition like that, or because if you're like devoutly Christian, you'll say that that's the only way. But it's actually not the only way. And so then, outside of the religion, it is a competition between people like Christians and non-Christians. I have to focus on this game here. So like Christians would like to say that everybody should be viewed the same, the way that God loves all of us the same, but it's actually aggressive to force people into a thought process where you're saying that they're all the same, which is what Christianity does. Like, unfortunately, it's a competition if you're saying like everybody. I've got to have the right one here. Yes, I do. I do have the right one. Like that makes it a competition, even though your ideals would be saying that even if you have like collectivist ideals like that, like ideals that are trying to get people to think that they're all the same as everybody else, it's aggressive to do that to people who are naturally individualistic. But it's just automatically aggressive and competitive to say that there's no competition, like everybody's the same. When it is a competition between the standards of Christianity versus the standards of all other religions, and including atheism or people that are irreligious. Like it is automatically a competition across the world, across different religions. Like you would go wrong and you'd be lying about the way that the world is if you said that there's no competition at all. If you're saying there's only one way of believing, it's just automatically really aggressive to everybody else. Come on, why are these so hard to pick up? I don't understand. Yes, they gave me this game again that I just don't. I'm not even gonna try to do. Not while I'm talking on here anyway. So like Christianity is naturally very competitive, and like it's just that Christians would like to have the view of Jesus that is the socialist one or the collectivist one, but unfortunately socialism and capitalism always happen at the same time. You can't really have one without the other, or in other words, competition is happening, but then the other side of that where everybody is the same. It's the same as saying chaos versus order, because in a perfect state of order, there's different levels. In a perfect state of chaos, like everything is the same amount of chaotic. Like order implies that there's different statuses or different rankings. There's a competition as long as there's order. And I think that another thing about Christianity is that they would prefer order, but especially the order where they come out on top in terms of money and popularity of their religion, which is the way that it stands now. Christianity, like, in my opinion, Christianity is the religion most concerned with competition because they're the ones that are winning the competition constantly. They have the greatest population, and they have the most money across people who believe in their religion. So that would go to say that they are winning the world more than anybody else, besides that we named time after Jesus. And like Christians have a lot of historical clout, have a lot of historical power. They have proven themselves very good at influencing the way that history is written. Like, because of these reasons, I'd say that Christians prove themselves to be more concerned with winning than any other religion. They're actually more about a competition than the other religions are, because other religions aren't winning. or in other words, are more passive about the entire thing. But I'm saying, like, the competition happens no matter what. Like, relative truth happens even if you don't want to recognize it. It is happening because we have different religions to compare. There's no ideal that is the top ideal. Ideologies compete with each other. I'd say that the most aggressive way to approach it, though, is to say that there isn't a competition, or say that there isn't relative truth, say that there's one answer, because you're just pretending that no competition is going on, and that's like the most aggressive way of doing it when it's completely a competition. But I'd say that you can look at Jesus, and it maybe sounded like I just said Jesus, but you could look at Jesus or Jesus, and that's just the perspective of God and man combined is one of, like, if you view him as a man, that's competition. If you view him as God, that's not really a competition. That's more subjecting. That's more subjective space. But objective space is more competitive because you're comparing. You're outside of objects and can see whole objects and compare them against each other. If you're subjected, you're viewing your subjector or your captor as an absolute territory or border that surrounds you. Like, it's being subjected or surrounded or contained causes you into an absolutist perspective, and absolute does happen, and the same way subjective happens. Just subjective and objective both happen all over at the same, everywhere in the world at the same time. Like, being contained within a building is like being in a subjective space, yet at the same time you can have the perspective how you as an individual are above your own imagination, or like you control your body with your mind, and so like you subject the rest of your body. I'm saying, like, you're above something and you're below something all at the same time, no matter where you are. Like, if you're outside, if you're not within any buildings, you're subjected by the world, and you are outside of all other buildings and able to see all other buildings as objects. Like, there is a perspective for you to say that I am within subjective space while being in objective space at the same time. No matter where you are, both of those things are happening, because you're always above something and below something. If you're just outside, the thing that you're below is just like the entire earth, or just, you could say, the country that you're living in, because you're within the territory of that too. But like, Jesus is a picture of this, since he is both God and man. It's like saying he is he represents a subjective space and an objective space. In the respect that he's a man, it's competitive or objective. In the respect that he's God, he would be above you and he's subjecting you, because no human is God. But so it's interesting that Jesus so perfectly embodies both subjectivity and objectivity, or he kind of like, the ideas I'm presenting about time and space both happen everywhere at the same time, or like capitalism and socialism. There's like a spectrum between them, but like Jesus kind of represents all of these dualities. Like, he is the duality perfectly, which makes him different from God, who's kind of like a absolutely one thing kind of perfection. Jesus is an absolutely two. But I think that it's healthy to remember that Jesus is an example of the greatest competitor, or it's like, you don't get stuck into this aggressive thing where, like, I mean, the entire world has a relationship to Christians, and like people don't very often voice how like the financial inequality that's brought into the world by Christians owning 55.3% of the world's wealth, where the next organized religion is Muslims and they own 5% of the world's wealth. And that doesn't match up at all with that's a huge disparity when you consider the populations of both of these religions. It doesn't exactly add up. Like, Muslims should have more money than they do, but like, so I'm saying you would go wrong to view Jesus as this, like, only a good guy. Like, it's almost like saying he's both good and evil. Because he is in it for the money, as it turns out. Because, nope, you went between it. Sorry, I'm focusing on the game for a minute here. My next episode, I'll do another one on Saturday, so I can get back into the swing of things, or like that I'm doing at least one a week. Today, I guess I'm just talking about God, but so I guess I'm just frustrated with, like, Christians act like what they're doing is so nice because it's all about, like, eternity in heaven and, like, pacifism. But it's really just a giant competition where they're saying their guy is the hero, he's the winner, and you have, like, and you have to admit that. Because it is sort of like that, seeing as that how much Christians win in the world, because Christianity is always so visible, and the cross is like, there's probably more crosses than any other symbol or brand of something that you find anywhere in the world, maybe besides the Nike swoosh. Because it is a competition. But I'm just talking about, like, the entire world, Christianity or not. Like, Christians are part of the competition, and they do a lot for their part to, like, try to win things, I would say. This comes through in, like, the world population of Christians and the money that they have. But the question is just, like, are things a competition, or are they, like, or are they not? Because people just want all of us to progress to, like, a higher level of unity across the board, but it's just really antagonistic when you're asking. Like, people assume that giving up your individuality for the good of the whole, for unity across the board, that's always better. But that's actually really aggressive towards people who are more individualistic, or because, like, you're probably not going to invent something or manifest God for yourself or to other people. Like, you're not going to be able to reveal God to anybody if you don't believe in yourself individually speaking. And so that automatically, like, it's necessary for people to ignore collectivism and, like, see something within themselves, or, like, see themselves to be original or unique in order to invent something new. Like, you're not going to have access to the beyond, or you're not going to have a relationship with God, the supernatural, the things that have not yet manifested in reality, like things that you are crazy to talk about existing, like things that you could bring into the world that don't yet exist. Like, you're not going to have any relationship with God if you don't see anything in yourself individually And like in that regard, it's good to focus on the competition. And so like that's maybe a good thing about Christians, really, is that they're always making it competitive, or like it's a tenacity and an enthusiasm that you have. And so like it's important to believe in something fervently, probably. Like the more you believe in something fervently is the more that you're going to be insane in your relationship with the beyond, or like things that other people don't quite believe in. Like having faith in the beyond does kind of make you an insane person. And I'd say that it's yeah, I guess I'm just arguing that a relationship with God, sort of as opposed to atheism, because there's people that are just like, there is no God, and they don't like the supernatural, and don't like to consider the beyond, because that's just like crazy talk, or it causes you to depart from reality, or like things that are obvious, because there's just like, you can look at everything as this is obviously the way that things are, or but probably what's more interesting is if I talk about what I think about God. And I think that God is just really disintegrated rather than that he's integrated. I think that that's the way you need to view him, because he is too many different things. That too many different people have perspectives of him. Like, I think that it's better to hold to an individual perspective of God than a collectivized one, because if you're collectivizing your view of God, or like pooling a narrative across lots of people, like a lot of people in a church, for example, choosing to align themselves with the same narrative, this diminishes your ability to create something, because you're relinquishing your individual relationship to God. Like I think it's important to hold on to your individuality, or your individual interpretation of God, because that is true alongside there being a collectivized interpretation of God. Like in a major religion like Islam or Christianity, all of the interpretations of God are evened out so that like there's the same interpretation of God across lots of people. I think it's better to continue to recognize, or like an individual interpretation of God should be set apart, and the differences across different people's interpretations of him should stand alone, rather than that we even them all out, because you'd have more unique ways of looking at God, or things would be more cultural if everybody had held to their own individualities more. You would get different versions of God, like the more that very many individuals were given the chance to manifest their relationship with God in reality. Like I think on an individual level, it's important to manifest God. Like I think that individuals bring God into the world for the rest of us, and I think that like individual people are God, really. And since that's true, we need to give ourselves the freedom to bring our own version of God into the world. Like we can only do that if we give ourselves particular things we see about God into the world for everybody else, because it's like only what we see about God like that's gonna die if we give that up, or we say that the way that we see God is the same as the way everybody else sees God. It's a mindset, but like, it's interesting, the relationship between belief and like competition, or that it's aggressive the more that you believe it. It's like you can lightly believe something, like it's important to have passion, but like, what is it that causes people to really fervently believe something? Like, it's not easy to obtain that, and so like that's part of why Christianity must be so lucrative, is like you can find yourself in a position where the passion is sort of endless, because like you can always believe further. It's like the more that you continue to be a Christian is the more that you do believe it. But it has to do with dedicating yourself to one specific thing, like for example the Christian religion, or it could just be like drumming. Like one area of specialty is going to cause you, and spending so much time doing that, gaining a lot of authority in any one area, is kind of going to cause you to believe in that thing so much because you've devoted so much time to it, or you've sacrificed so much in its name, is what's going to give you enthusiasm. And so like master of none kind of mentality might cause for a passionless existence, like if you don't hold to any one thing strong enough, or like don't have any one authority strongly enough. You might not have the enthusiasm you need. I'm focusing on the game. I'm falling behind here. I'm gonna need to come back. Oh, and that's not gonna help. It's not gonna help at all. No, I'm gonna lose. Great. But yeah, those things. I will like I said, I'm gonna start a new podcast in the future where I can hash these kinds of things out with people, ask some religious questions probably, because I am interested in religion, maybe, at least at this point in my life. I'm interested in the supernatural, and I wish that we as a species articulated more about the supernatural, or try to answer those questions more, but it's unfortunate that time goes on and on and on, and like we don't have answers for things like UFOs or whatever, things that we deem to be supernatural. It's kind of sad. It's like humans are always at a level that's too stupid. Like, unfortunately, there probably won't be any significant things found out about what is the meaning of life during my lifetime, because humans will probably be too stupid to really understand at a deeper level. Like, it's going to take so long for us to expand consciousness. Like, it's too bad that like, maybe it's the case that we're currently living in a time where we'll be stupid for long enough that no significant things will be found out about the supernatural, but I hope that's not the case. Regardless, I'm not smart enough to figure any of those things out significantly, but thanks for listening. I'm going to do another episode on Saturday, and whatever else. Talk to you all later. Bye.